Hi friends, I'm so excited about this one because it's a gorgeous color combination for a forest. I saw this reference photo in a group that I'm a part of that provides free reference photos for artists. And I really was immediately touched by it. So I'm going to be using Bao Hong Rough watercolor paper. It's 100% cotton, acid-free, 300 GSM, 140 pound paper. So it's going to handle the water pretty well without buckling too much. You see I've taped off the edges. So we're going to go straight in with, it is the Q Rose from Daniel Smith. Starting with that, adding in from my, it's a magenta. Oh, that's rose madder. Apologize. Yeah. And then actually I remember, yeah, there it is, the zirconian blue. I absolutely love this color from A. Gallo, and it needs to just be just a hint of blue in the background there. So I'm just going to be laying that in, and I'm holding my paper up just to kind of let the colors kind of flow into one another. Over on the left-hand side, I'm going to be using a little bit of the Tyrian purple from A. Gallo to kind of get that blue and the pink, and that's a little bit of a darker area over there. So I want to make sure that that distinction is made. So once we get all of that in, we can start thinking about the colors that we're going to be putting in for our background trees. And it's kind of the distant trees that are kind of reaching up into that sky. They're going to be much lighter than the ones in the foreground. So we just want to start off with a hint of the fig green from A. Gallo and pull in some of the rock shapes where we're going to have the highlights in the green. This fig green is fantastic. If you've not used A. Gallo paints before, this is one of their colors that's my absolute favorite. Now I'm coming in with some sap green, very, very watered down, mixed in with that fig green, just to start giving it some more definition on rocks. There's a big rock over on the left, so I'm pulling in some of my, this color is meteorite brown from Schminke, and it's pretty light brown, so it kind of allows you to build up a little bit. And really in this stage, I'm just going to be kind of mapping out some of the larger areas with the greens and the browns to try to get just the colors in. We'll define the rocks a little bit more later, but pulling in some more brown, and this is using some burnt umber, in addition to olive green deep from the A. Gallo. Just whatever you have is going to work here. Just realize that. You can blend out, for example, the fig green using some maybe lemon yellow or some other bright yellow, and a typical green, sap green, something light in a green to get that really highlighted color, and then just keep darkening your greens to kind of define a little bit more in there. The browns, again, are going to provide the shadow. Now, the light source is actually going to be kind of over on the right. So everything I'm putting in here is going to be taking that into consideration. My little bell keeps going off from my camera outside with my dogs wandering around. So anyway, putting in some more of the dark green to try to build in some shadows right off the bat. And again, defining these stones, these big rocks and stones that are over here that really create so much atmosphere in this painting. All right, I'm going to go in again with some of the greens that I've kind of mixed up. I've got it a little bit darker, added a little bit of olive in there to build up that background color. We'll be adjusting as we go. So the background color is really the one, like I said, where you've got those trees coming up in the back. And I apologize that my camera, I'm a little off there, but I'll pull it back up in just a second so you won't be missing anything. Okay, so getting some other colors in here again, the darker browns. I do use a lot of the olive green deep from A Gallo, but then also a burnt umber, just to kind of pull in a lot of that more dark, starting to build up those browns on the back ends of some of these rocks, still defining as we go. You just got to kind of get a feel for it, of where you think that you want them to be. And they don't have to be perfect, because the whole picture, the picture as a whole it's the colors and the tones that you're working with that are going to make this beautiful for you. So getting in, just trying to blend in some more of these shapes, trying to figure out where I'm almost creating them out of thin air right now, just based on where I really want to keep those really broad highlights, that bright green. That's going to be very, very important in the final product here. All right, looking around, trying to see if I can find some more areas there. And I think I'm going to go in with some more olive green deep. That is such an amazing color from A Gallo. Those paints are expensive, and you can get olive green. You can mix one yourself. There's a lot of different things that you can do to get the colors that you need or that you want. Just play around with your colors if you don't have the ones specifically that I'm working with, and just come up with something that works for you. That's the most important thing. It should be an enjoyable process. Pulling in some more of that bright green to kind of make sure I've got this one that I've decided I want over here to be pulled in. I'm still defining, always going to be defining these rocks. And you can see them coming into shape, but they're still very rough. So I'm going in with a little bit on the back sides of the ones I have defined, and that's going to help me narrow down where I still need to work. And you'll notice that as I do this, there are going to be places that I just, end up changing in the end. But I'll walk you through those as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying these videos, my tutorials. It really does help my channel if you just hit that like button. If you're subscribed already, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of my subscribers. And also just know that I'm always willing to answer any questions you might have. So feel free to write in those comments and let me know where you're at, where you're viewing from, and what type of things that you like to paint. All right, so again, I'm painting the back ends of these rocks, and it's all just an adjustment process. This is kind of an important area because it's in the foreground, so you do want a little bit more of the focus, but again, it's the trees, which I'm going to be using a flat brush to pull in and these are raggedy trees. Raggedy, I don't know, scraggly, what would you call them? And the darker ones, I'm kind of laying that one out over on the right, and you'll see some of the others. And now going in with some of the smaller ones, and using a liner brush or a rigger, such as the one I'm using here, allows you to really stay organic. It just gives you that ability, little wiggles to keep everything real, not too structured, just kind of giving it that real nature feel. So anytime you're doing any type of branches, that type of thing, make sure, if you don't have one, I suggest getting a brush that's called a rigger or a liner. They come in different sizes, usually related to the length more than the width of it. But it is like I'm almost always have a rigger on hand because I do a lot of landscapes. building it over on this side, making sure also to get some of these darker areas built in. We'll be adding them. The other thing to remember when you're building in trees and branches, always remember that the thickest part of the branch is going to be at the bottom. So as you go along, you might have to adjust sometimes to make sure that, when you look at it, you don't have a branch that starts off thin and widens. So anyway, that's one of those things that I try to remember as I go along. And these are going to be the trees more towards the background. One thing to remember with watercolor too is that watercolor will dry lighter than what you're applying. So it may look like some of these are going to be really darker in the background, but they will lighten up. And that's why we do a lot of adjusting as we go. You kind of just get used to it. And it's just something that daily practice, or as often as you can, just put paint down on paper. That's going to really help you to develop that understanding of your paints, your papers, your brushes, and give you that muscle memory, and also, to train your eye to remember details like that. The darknesses, the lights, those are the tonal values that you're working with. And remembering darks and lights and your shadows and your skies, whatever it is. Adding some more darker ones over here. And you did see I'm adjusting towards the bottom when I see a branch or a trunk that looks too narrow at the bottom. You got to adjust. This is kind of just a practice in, as I go, I'm kind of figuring out what needs light, what needs dark. And this area over here is going to be darker, so I'm really just loosely laying in, just like over on the right-hand side as well. Those areas are going to be darker. The light's going to be coming right down in the middle there. So it's okay to just kind of loosely lay in a light glaze of the color that you're working with. In this case, it's a kind of a combination of the burnt umber and olive green deep. You can see it start to develop, and why that darkness on the back, on the sides, is so important. This is one of the main trees here, and it needs to be pretty dark. So I'm going to go back over it, and also to remember with this, the darkness that I'm referring to is going to be on the left-hand side, again, because of that light source. So I'll be touching that up as I go, just like I'm doing here, just kind of going along on the left-hand side, building it up a little bit, and then towards the bottom on that one, it's really dark. Got some more more foreground trees. Again, they're going to be pretty dark. I'm trying to be very loose with my direction up. You see there how I got very narrow at the bottom of that branch, so I have to adjust that. All right, and then this one's coming over. I'm not sure I've got the angles right on this. I may have to do some adjusting. There we go. That kind of helps. When I did that, I'm thinking maybe we can add some more here as well. Give these a little bit more structure up near the top. Now, the branch I just laid in is actually coming from the other side of that big tree, so you'll see when we do our shading how we would do that. Now that I've got the bigger ones in, adjusting those tonal values by pulling in some more of the darks. Don't forget to hit that bell if you want to know when I'm going to be putting out another video. And also do remember to lay something in the comments for me. Just let me know you're here. All right, now that I've got some of that laid in, again with the adjusting, laying a glaze of that color for the background and just building it again to kind of all balance out. I'll be filling in some areas with a little bit more dark, just like over here, just to make sure that I'm remembering the light source and the effect and giving it that kind of really, not spooky, but it's just, that atmospheric feel. So that's the thing about the dark on the sides of that, just letting that light come down through that middle section really helps to give it that feel. Adding in this pink to kind of mimic the sky's reflection on some of these areas. Not a lot of it, just enough to kind of pull that pink back down into these areas. I will be adding some leafy kind of feel in there as well. But for now, we're going to keep darkening that side. And you'll see now that this one is in the back, like I said, so it's going to come, there we go. You can tell that it's in the back now because you've got that light area coming down kind of in front of it. Going to keep building up these darker areas. And this one really was bugging me, so I'm still adjusting on it. I'm going to be pulling some darker areas on the right as well. When you start painting these types of landscapes that are just, it would be impossible to take something and do it exactly the way that, you've got a photograph or something. When you've got this many trees and the rocks and all, you could do it, but it would take so long, and I'm not a patient person. So when I start painting, I want to paint something I know that I can paint within a certain time frame. When I look at reference photos, I look at it from the standpoint of how would I process that? What steps would I take? What colors can I use? Am I going to be able to do it without any real trouble areas? So when you're looking at your reference photos, and you can use Pixabay, you can use Pexels.com, Unsplash. They all have royalty-free reference photos for you to use for your artwork. And when you're looking through those photos, you're going to find all kinds of beautiful things. But I would encourage you, when you look at them, to think about how would you approach it and kind of walk yourself through it. You will find, and I do this all the time, I'll look at the painting or the photograph and I'll think, maybe, and I'll just keep scrolling, and I tell myself all the time, you'll know it when you see it, and then one will just stick out at you, and you just, get that one, download it, and it may take you a while to even get to it. That happens a lot too. I have reference photos that I've had for years that I, come back and finally I'm ready to paint it. Excuse me. So adding some more shading now on the rocks, and you can see they've really developed. Now that you've got the trees in the background, it's a little bit easier to see as well. That light source again. So by adding these shadows, you're working with those tonal values. Just keep building that up, using the side of your brush when you want that roughness. And I know over on the right, we're going to need some more darkness in that area. That's going to come from the shading of those big trees on the right. All right, and I think that, they're going to start putting in some of this. I'm changing the shape on some of these because I think I'm going to, not want them all to be too even. And that's how it was looking to me. You don't want it to look too structured, right? They're rocks. They're going to be different shapes and sizes. So I'm coming back in here and kind of looking at this where I think I can maybe break them up, give them a different shape. I'll do that several times in here still. This darker area, like I said, I'm going to need some darker shading on the rocks, and then I will go over with a glaze of a darker color just to make sure that I maintain that shadow area from those trees. I hope you're enjoying the painting, and I hope you will give this a try. It is so rewarding to come in and just kind of be able to play with it and not have anything that you're having to follow, but using your own judgment. You have that. That's your creativity that you can use, and just look at something the way you want to see it and put it down on paper. It takes practice, I will say that. It takes a lot of practice, and it's just something that, you know, if you work at it, you will get there. It's not necessarily something you're born with. It's a matter of the desire of, you know, creating something and then practicing so that you can do it well. I'm still practicing, I'm still learning. I've done quite a few swatchings lately, and I thought, you know, I need to do some actual painting, and taking some of these paints that I've swatched recently. If you want to see those colors, you can go in my channel and you will find the swatching videos. It really helps to understand what the colors are and how they behave, and I'm using some of them finally in here. I wanted some of those granulating greens in particular. And the Q Rose in the sky from the Daniel Smith, that's really gives you a nice smooth gradient. There I am coming in with those darker areas that I mentioned. Got to keep all of that side dark, adding more shadows to the trees. Done. All these different branches, the bigger ones in particular, need to have that shading on the left side to maintain that feel of light and shadow. I think we've got some light areas, just going to kind of fill in some more darker branches on the left there. Okay, getting close. I'm going to have to build up some more in this area just to continue. I'm taking a flat brush now, and I'm going to lift out some of the faces of these rocks. And what I mean by there, see, now I've changed the shape of that completely just by changing the texture of the front of the rock. So you can see where the light's hitting it, and they're not all just rounded. That's something that where I was talking about making those adjustments so they're not too even. You got some that are flat, some that are really round, some that are just look broken. And that's really what you want. This big one over on the left is kind of one of those that it needs the darkness. So, and again, I apologize being off camera down at the bottom. I should have adjusted a little better. There we go. All right. Adding in some of those little red areas that kind of indicate where there's leaves that have fallen in between the rocks and the ground cover there. And it just kind of helps to balance out with the red in the sky. And looking at that, I probably will pull in some buff titanium here, give some highlights to those leaves. And that should be about the last stage here. Still wanting to darken that area over here though, and along the tape lines, and just kind of giving it this last part. I'm using my really, really cheap fan brush that I cut with scissors to make it all raggedy, to pull in those last really far away branches that are kind of reaching up. And that's it. Let's take our tape off. This is on a block, so I will cut it off of the block. And then we will have our finished product. Sometimes it's tricky getting the tape off when I do it around the corners. But there we go. All right, I think it's come out very well. I'm pretty pleased with the way that it's worked. So it should be almost dry, almost completely dry at this point. Can move everything else, close up, put it away, so you can see just our painting. I hope you'll take a stab at this. It is very rewarding to do these types of paintings. There we go. Bending it to make sure, since it was on the block, and pulling off the extra, the glue from the block. But there's our final product. Thank you so much for joining me on this, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.